that, especially if we're talking about investments in real estate. So in California, the 1031 exchange rules have changed in addition to the taxes. So they gave us an extension, free extension to October 16th of this year to file taxes for businesses, right?
They did. So let's talk real estate and some of the challenges with property ownership. Well, we both have gone through some challenges with real estate recently. I think you more than me. But I think it would be helpful for us to go over the challenges we're experiencing, what we're doing about it, and what we learned. And you have a triplex in Costa Mesa, and recently you've dealt with some issues, right?
Yeah. So I guess part of the challenges with real estate or property ownership in general, regardless of where you are in the state, is that things happen. You have water leaks. Like that's what we're experiencing now. We have multiple water leaks.
Yeah, one big water leak.
Yeah, one like waterfall.
Yeah,
it feels like a waterfall. And that just comes with the territory, right? So just if you have something, we have a water leak, or you have something else. If you have a loss, then having insurance, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
Making sure you have insurance, making sure you know the deductible, and making sure you have the contact for the people to call as soon as that happens. And then for the tenants, one of the things that we do with the tenants that we have is we make them get tenant insurance.
That's right.
Because then with the tenant insurance, they can get relocation money, or they can get,
or if any of their stuff is damaged, they can get reimbursed.
Right.
They're like a computer, clothes,
yep,
what have you, from let's say water or any other damage inside the property that was a little bit unforeseen.
Right.
And that tenant insurance is very affordable. I mean, I think some you can get $25 or $50 a month.
Yeah, it's like $25 to $60 a month.
Yeah,
it's not expensive at all.
Yeah.
And,
but you can require that for the tenant, so that if something were to happen, it's less of a burden for both landlord and the tenant. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a bird's eye view of what happened. So we had the Mesa Water District did a routine maintenance, they called it. I haven't seen it in a while, but anyways, they did a routine maintenance, and then after that routine maintenance, based on what the plumbers tell me, and it was 7 plumbers that I spoke with. I had to meet 7 plumbers. Because some do specific things and some do leak detection, so they're all.
So you know a lot about plumbers.
I learned a lot in the last 4 weeks about plumbers and plumbing. And one of the things they said is that there was probably air in the water lines when they reset the water, and then.
Oh, interesting. For like the new tenant and turn on utilities.
No. There was in the water after the water company did the service.
Oh.
There was air in those lines, so then the air came through. And since the main at the street was open, and I didn't have a water pressure regulator, the water pressure in Costa Mesa is about 100 pounds per second, PSI, which is high. Normally for a house, it should be between 60 and 70.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
60 to 70 should be the highest. Well, Costa Mesa is 100, which is a lot. So then that combined with old pipes from the 1962, the combination of the whole thing, what happened is they blew through one of the pipes in the middle of the house, in the middle of the unit, through the manifold, which is a manifold system. And so a couple of things. We didn't know that these units were in a manifold system, which is a very old system that was used previous to 1970. And then the other thing that it has a common cold line, which is one water line for all 3 units. So when you shut the water off in the front, you shut it for all 3 units versus one.
So anytime you need maintenance, that's
a big issue.
That's not fun.
In hindsight, I wish we knew that when we rehabbed the units. We did.
We could split them up. Yeah,
we could split them up because the walls were open.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we learned is but just to go over the problem. So part of the challenges with this is that the leak happened. So then,
and the tenant, how were you aware of that? Did the tenant
called me and said there's water coming from the floor.
Got it. So the tenant discovered water or dampness from the floor,
Oh yeah, no, there was water seeping to the floor. He was like stepping on, and the water.
and it was new floors, right?
It was new floors, less than a year old,
Oh, man.
brand new,
Waterproof
8mm
floors.
wax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he called, and it's like 9 o'clock. He's like, "Hey, just to let you know, there's water coming up from the floor." I'm like, "Oh shoot, that can't be good."
Right.
And then so what I did is I called my contractor right away. We went over there within 48 hours. Saw the problem. We thought there was a slab leak from one pipe going from the middle to one of the water spouts.
That's
We
right.
fixed that after spending some money on that. A week later,
Yeah.
it happened again.
Right.
And so that was not it.
Right.
So then,
So you originally like fixed the issue, and it wasn't that you didn't go through insurance. It was more of a smaller, under a couple grand.
right.
But then turned out problem wasn't fixed.
Problem wasn't fixed. So then what I did after that, I talked to my contractor. He recommended we get and that's why it's important to have a contractor that you trust or somebody that you trust to do maintenance, because they can tell you like, hey, you know what, it might be this or do this. He recommended I get a leak detection guy. So I got a leak detection company.
Because then you can figure out, like we already tried to fix it the easy way, least invasive way, but now it's like it's not going away. So let's figure out where the leak is coming from.
Yep, exactly. So then we did that, found the leak, and after meeting with several of them, 3 of them to be specific, they all pointed to the same area, which was in the bathroom and behind the kitchen cabinets. Mm-hmm. That was the wall that was having the problem. So we isolated that, so it was, at least it's within 3 by 5 feet of the wall. So that was good. That's a good thing. So contractor, leak detection guy, then it's like, okay. Then I take a view of the assessment of how much it's going to cost. And then I looked at my deductible for the insurance.
Right.
And I knew right away that it was going to be more than the insurance deductible. So that's when we made a decision to file a claim.
Right.
We filed the claim. As you know,
and before you did that, how, I know it's some fun stories with insurance. How was the tenant? Was the tenant being cooperative? And
yeah, the tenant was very nice.
Because obviously water's coming
guy.
up. You have a bunch of people coming through. I mean, I'm sure that wasn't necessarily fun, but I'm sure he also wants the leak to stop too, in his place.
He'd go back because he loved the unit.
Got it. Okay.
He was very cooperative, loved the unit. Anytime we needed to get in there, we got in there. Super flexible, very nice guy. John is his name. And very cooperative the whole time. So we ended up prorating the rent.
Okay.
We let him. I talked to him. Once I got a time frame from the contractor.
Got it.
Then it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh, really? Okay.
Once I got that, I'm like, hey, John, this is what they're telling me. Here's the issue.
Okay.
So
you guys came up. Okay, you have 2 options.
Yeah, you can, go stay at an Airbnb hotel, do an insurance claim for your renter's insurance. Then you can come back when we're done, or we can break the lease.
Terminate the lease.
You don't owe anything. We're going to further rent.
Got
the rent. Give you your entire deposit back. Don't worry about scratches and all the other stuff.
Got it.
No big deal. Don't worry about it all. So we let him off. That's what he
chose
to do.
the latter. Okay.
He chose that because he didn't want to move again, because the furniture was getting in the way. Because the water was all under the floor, one of the bedrooms, the hallway, the living room, the kitchen.
And it's not like there's 4,000 square feet. It's like 1,000 square feet. So you don't have that much room to work around and that much space to move his furniture.
So the contractor brought it up. He's like, "Can the tenant move out?" I'm like, "Well,
yeah,
that means I don't get any rent."
Right.
So
we
didn't get any rent.
That's a challenge.
March, we didn't get rent, and we gave a deposit back.
Yeah.
And we still don't have money from the insurance company.
Right.
Which is something that we requested in our policy to have income loss.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but the mortgage doesn't stop.
Correct.
The taxes don't
So
stop.
that's the thing.
Insurance
all the
stop.
other
You still have to pay the insurance.
Landscaping, insurance, taxes. Yeah. Everything is still on that clock.
So the challenges of owning a property like that is, 1, you have to have reserves. 2, you have to have the resources of somebody to help you fix the problem as soon as possible. Because fast forward 3 weeks, we still have not stopped the bleeding. It should be stopped by tomorrow. And the reason for that is because we did all this stuff. The tenant moved out on the 17th, which is a week ago. And we had a test for asbestos immediately. As soon as he left, we were waiting for him to move out to test the property for asbestos.
I see.
It came out hot for asbestos, or positive for asbestos. So guess what? We need an asbestos remediation company to come in and cut the drywall.
Damn.
Because we're dealing with insurance now.
Yeah.
And if we do it any other way, then it avoids what you're doing. So
Right.
So the water's still running.
So you've had to have a bunch of contractors go in. You found out where the leak is, had to pay the tenant back their deposit, no collections for at least the last month, or likely the next month. So that's probably 2 months out of rental income.
Yeah.
And
3250.
yeah, and so was that $7,000? Yeah, $7,000 there. Plus giving back their deposit.
And you still have to pay the plumbers because the plumbers take payment up front.
Right, and you're fronting the cost before, because insurance will, they just take their time. Eventually, you'll get reimbursed for, most of it, if not all of it. But you have to front it because you want this project to start now and for it to be fixed so you can re-rent it. Right. So that doesn't. So it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to fix. Right. So you've got to front all that, deal with all the calls. Yeah. Work through with the tenant. Sounds like that ended well. Thank God. That could have not ended well. Yeah. And so what you're doing now is basically doing whatever you can to get insurance what they need so they can reimburse you. And you're kind of in the middle point of tenant just moved out. You showed me some pictures. Brand new kitchen cabinetry, brand new floors. All that's been ripped up, right?
Right.
Dang.
It's all ripped out. So it was a brand new unit, not even 12 months old.
It wasn't, so new. I saw the
everything
pictures.
Was new.
Cabinets, countertop, floors, paint, everything was brand new. So all that's basically has been ripped up.
Yep.
Because you need it to dry.
Right.
Number one. And the contractor thinks about 3 or 4 weeks until it's fully ready to go.
Leak fixed, dried, because they have to run the fans have been running for 2 days. No, 3 days.
Okay.
The fans and the humidifiers.
Yeah.
Probably for another 3 to 4 days.
Wow.
From what I'm hearing. Then once it's all dried up, then they have to test for humidity again.
Okay.
So we don't get mold.
Right.
Once it's dry, then they have to rebuild the drywall and then start.
Okay. Then reassemble. Okay, got it. So you're kind of managing everything right now and fronting the money. Right. That sounds fun. Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, got it. Now
it's just part of it. I think ultimately though it is a challenge.
For sure
it's bigger than a speed bump.
Yeah, I would say so.
For sure. So we're encountering a lot of potholes on the way.
Yeah,
and we're learning a lot of new things.
And I'm learning a lot watching you guys go through that. Because that's very unlikely to have. You just remodel the whole dang thing, then you have a slab leak or whatever kind of leak that you were saying it was.
We don't even know if it's a slab leak.
Right, and then having to rip all that stuff out, they just put, so that is a challenge, but
I would say I would say the biggest thing is let's not freak out. Let's just what's a game plan? What can you do? Control what you can do. Have people, if you're not in the business or if you're not super involved with your properties, then lean on your property manager, on your broker,
professionals.
Yeah, to help you with that. Lean on your contractor to help with that. We have contractors that do different things, so we have contractors that can help with that. Right. And I just lean on them. One point of contact.
Right.
You coordinate the plumber. You coordinate everybody. If you need me, reach out to me. Otherwise, you run the whole thing. Yeah. And that's really what we're doing is leaning on those. And they still call you.
Yeah.
Because they still have questions. They need access. They need authorizations to do their work on the property and other things. But ultimately, you do the best you can as fast as you can, and you keep pushing forward. And having reserves for a property is essential because you don't know. I mean, you end up getting back up, but when that's a big question because you're dealing with insurance. So
insurance is they just don't move quickly, and I think it's good to know what you're saying is focusing on what you can control. Yeah, that's what you're alluding to, and for me, I feel like challenging times tend to happen. Stuff like this happens generally at the worst time, and this is why you have reserves. And I think you and I both would agree that it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, especially as the more real estate that we own and just the more family and more resources we need as we continue to scale our portfolios, is having more reserves, because when stuff like this happens, it it happens, and it can generally happen during the worst time. And having more reserves will probably help you feel, sleep a little bit better at night, and also having more access to money, right? So that could be having line of credits available for like HELOC loans. Robert Kiyosaki talks about that as the Kiyosaki. I know I always say Kawasaki. You would not like that.
Right, Robert, you hear that?
Yeah, I know exactly.
I know that's true.
Just having more access to money, especially during stuff like this. Not that you need it, but heck, man, I think that's more conservative to have more availability to money.
And you can make the tenants pay for that. So yes, I do agree with that. Yes, having your cash fund, but also having the ability to have a line of credit in case of emergency. This is obviously an emergency. No one's planning for it. I'd rather have more cash in the bank than not. So then, yes, of course, I put it on that. And the cost of having something like that is not very expensive.
Very
and
true.
Then you pay it off as soon as you can, or make the tenants pay.
Yeah,
right. We have tenants, so
exactly.
Yeah, they can pay for that. So,
yeah.
And ultimately, though, is the property still a great property?
Right.
We still have a good deal.
Absolutely.
We'll get it re-rented. We'll be
100%
green again. So it's just a temporary speed bump or pothole, big one that we encountered. But you just keep moving forward.
And I think the other thing to know is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. Right. And don't drive yourself crazy that there are going to be. You're going to be crazy if you're not going to expect challenges.
Right.
And I think earlier on in my real estate investing career, if it didn't go perfectly, I would get really frustrated. It's like, well, if I continue to buy real estate and having more real estate that I own to rent,
problems go away.
They're actually just going to increase because you have more units. So therefore, over time, more tenants, more properties, there's going to be just the law of averages. There's going to be more of that coming up. And so how are you going to deal with it, right?
More money, more problems.
right. Somebody once might have said that.
Yeah.
But it's a marathon, not a sprint. I think you guys are handling it pretty dang well, given the circumstance. And even for me, before we go on to the next one.
I was just going to say, don't you have an issue in Texas?
No issues at all over here. Yeah. But we had more, speed bumps than potholes there. But I've had a couple, just one tenant last month, he just re-signed a new 12-month lease, and then just walked, basically said, I'm moving out. I don't want to live here anymore. And just said,
gotta love it.
I'm out. And I was, it was on like a Saturday or Sunday, and naturally I'm just like, well, hey buddy, you still have 10 more months on your 12-month lease. You just re-upped your lease. Like if you didn't want to live, like he already lived there for a year, and then he just re-upped for another year. And so long story short,
what are you gonna do about
it? I had to work with him getting out, and he, was kind of dragging his feet, and but that, and then actually that property we were just talking about, it's been on the market for rent, because once he moved out, I did paint, cleaning it, did a couple other like handyman stuff to it, and it's been on the market for rent for 3 weeks. And it's still on the market for rent. And over the last year, generally in 1 or 2 weeks, I would have it rented with a good applicant. Now this time I did start a little bit high on the rent amount, just to kind of see what would happen. And so that problem started in February, and I'm still hunting for a tenant. Now I did work out a deal to get February and half of March paid for by the tenant that moved out. But still, it's a lot of inconvenience, and it's taken a little bit longer than I would like to have that rented. And then I had a second unit, so I have 9 units in Texas. I had a second unit, say as that first guy just picked up and basically walked out, that that they wanted to end their lease as well. And that,
when does that do?
They just moved out on Sunday. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So now
are we doing whiskey or
so now we got two out of the 9 that are vacant. And it's it's like, dude, what the heck? Like, this is so interesting. Now the one that just got vacant, I have to do paint and floors, and so that's going to take a week, and we're starting that in the next day or two. But that's it's like, oh, okay, got it. This is why we have reserves, and so basically what I'm doing about it now is we are doing some price adjustments on the rent, because I was reaching for the moon and the stars on the rental amount, because heck, if you can keep growing rents and raising rents, why wouldn't you, right? But there is a
sounds like
limit.
They're hitting a limit now.
I hit the limit. And so I need to come back down a little bit to reality, and so I am. So what I'm doing about it is we're adjusting the price. We're also adjusting our criteria a little bit. We were very strict on like income credit. We're loosening that a little bit. So I'm hoping within the next week or two, for sure within 2 weeks, I should have that one rented, and then hopefully once that's done, then I can work on that second one that just got vacant. And so what I've learned
I was just going to ask, so what did you learn from that?
Having more reserves, like what we were just talking about, and to be patient through, these hurdles, because they're going to happen. They're going to happen, just like I just said. And don't lose sleep. Don't overly stress about it, because the goal is to continue scaling. And so this is just going to happen on a monthly basis eventually. I've been very fortunate that I haven't had to deal with too much of that since I've been investing in real estate. But to have more reserves, and probably what I'll do also, as the market shifts a little bit. If we were in 2021 and 22, I probably would have kept pushing it really hard on rent, on the price I'm trying to get. But a market like today, I might go slightly over what I just rented it for, instead of like 10% above what I just rented it for. So I think that those are the couple of things I learned.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, I would just say I'm still learning. We're probably right in the middle of it.
Yeah, right.
And we also have another water leak at our house, at our personal residence, so that's a different topic. But I would say one of the things that I've learned is just to, not freak out, to stay patient and contact everybody and their mom every day, to keep pushing. I've learned that even though they have trusted advisors or people that we work with in the past, and you still have to be on top of mind. Because they're busy. They're not their only project.
Correct.
So,
so
I've taken that upon myself to be on top of them every single day. And
just so it gets done quickly. Not that you're,
And same with the insurance, because if I don't contact the insurance,
they're not thinking of you.
They
want to take the time.
Claim is filed.
They don't want to write the check
and do this. And it's like I'm on them like right and right. So it's like it's something that I take up on myself. So that's what I've learned. But so on to the next thing. Should we talk about, are people moving out of state for investing?
Yeah, we should. I am. I have.
Right. I mean, you're in Texas.
I have. I don't think that I'm only going to be looking out of state, but I do think that people are looking out of state for investing. And actually, more often than not, I meet and chat with people about investing into real estate and going out of state, and considering out of state with your investing. Because I think it makes a good option and is a little bit safer. As people are either getting started or growing their portfolio, and compared to California, I guess it depends on where you are. We're in Orange County, California, which is a great place, but it's also a different place compared to Texas or Florida. But I think people are going to continue to look out of state, and so far for me, even though I know we just talked about some challenges, but overall, bigger picture over the last almost 18 months that I've owned in Texas, it's been great. It's been great. I haven't had too many hiccups. I've had some challenges with tenants, but you know what? The landlord and tenant laws in Texas are different than California. And it has been favorable to me.
So I was going to say, aren't they better in Texas for landlords then?
They are. Yeah, there definitely are. Yeah, they're definitely different. And it, speaking of like peace of mind, it makes me sleep better at night knowing that if I have a outrageous tenant trying to take advantage of a system, that I can do something about it. That I don't I'm not necessarily at mercy to the tenant. It's really in Texas, it's the other way around, which is nice. Now, I haven't had, I'm not in the business of putting people on the street or anything like that. But, if you consistently not pay your rent, obviously we're going to have a conversation and then we're going to have a game plan with you getting out.
Right.
Now, in Texas, you don't have to give them much notice to get out, which is kind of interesting compared to California. And it's nice to know that you have the law on your side if you have to use it. And hopefully we don't, hopefully I never have to. But I think over time, as we were just talking about scaling our portfolios, as the more real estate you own, over time you're going to come across the professional tenant is what I call, where they work the system, they try, and we do everything we can to weed out that type of tenant.
Right.
So we don't accept their applications, or we help them find another place to live.
Yeah.
But when I do come across that, I feel pretty good about Texas, and I personally think Texas has a lot more room to grow. For rent, for even appreciation, even though I think it is going to be less than Orange County for sure. But we'll still have some appreciation, and the cash flow is there's cash flow there from month one, which has been really, really enlightening. So what do you think? Do you think people are going to continue buying out of state compared to like California and New York?
I think everywhere. Yeah, New York is a different beast, but I talked to a client, and he has an investment in Mission Viejo, a condo that he wants to sell, and do. He actually doesn't have to do 1031 this year. If he does it this year,
because he lived there 2 out of the 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he's got
That's
it included. So it's great. He doesn't have to do for taxes until the next property, which is great news. So we're looking at Texas. So we just had a conversation because he's priced out of the market here.
Yeah.
To get,
I know,
he would be able to get a single family home in Riverside County. He doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if he went to Texas, he can buy 4 units.
Yeah. Yeah, he could.
He can buy 4 units there.
Going to put
Get rid of
25-30% down.
Right. So he can buy 4 units in the Dallas metro area, like Irving, between Plano and Irving, that whole U-shaped area around Dallas. Not University Park, obviously, because that's very expensive.
Yeah.
But all around there, he can buy 4 units in cash flow day one.
I know.
I
know that very well.
He's barely cash flowing in Mission Viejo right now.
Yeah. Especially
because of the HOA. 450, 460. Oh, man. So his profit is going to the HOA, and and he's at a market rate. He's probably $50 below the market rate for rents.
Okay.
Which is not bad. It's really good.
No, he's pretty close, yeah.
The challenge for the HOA, some of the other stuff, is just it's too much. But if you went to Texas, 4 units, cash flow right away, with property management.
Yeah, right. No, that's
it's
great.
insane. So yes,
but then long term, I think that's going to
he can always
continue.
come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He can always come back, and with the cash flow and appreciation, eventually, he could, diversify and come back one day.
So I do think that more people, especially the investors that are starting now that don't have a lot of capital or don't have access to capital, I think they're going to be looking at Arizona, Nevada, they're going to be looking at Texas just to get started because it's a lower barrier to entry than we have here. And it is what it is. Or they can go out to like San Bernardino County, Riverside County.
Right.
But some people would rather go out of state because of California laws.
Right.
So they're a win-win.
Because it's probably around the same price.
And laws.
Yeah. I mean, it's a similar price. Like Texas is a similar price to like San Bernardino.
Yeah.
Close, which is kind of funny. That's still
different
Southern
tenant.
California. Right. Definitely different tenant. But you might be in the same price. Yeah, you're in the same state, but you don't have the rules. Right. The landlord-tenant, you still have the California tenant laws.
Yeah.
So which is fine. I mean, I know a lot of investors that own a lot of rental real estate in Riverside and San Bernardino County, and they've done well. But I think in our age group, I think that I mean, that's one
like
thing.
29.
I was going to make a joke, but I didn't. I think one of the benefits is, long term, I think the next 30 years, like I have time on my hands, so the next 30 years, I think Texas, it's not going anywhere. It's not like a brand new state.
Right.
It's old. It's old. It's been there, and companies and people are moving there. And I think as California continues to become more and more outpriced, just becomes super, super expensive to live and raise a family, I think they've shown over the last 2 years, they're going to other states. And I think Texas will consistently be one of them. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, I think that's going to keep happening, especially for smaller investors getting into the industry.
Yeah.
It just, they'd probably come back, 1031 back in, which is something I would do.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to happen. So, well, I think that's a natural progression for us to talk about the rates and 1031 exchanges in California, which we have some news. What do you think about the rates? What happened yesterday that you want to share?
Yeah.
What did the Fed do?
So, the Feds are lovely people that rule the economy.
The ones that go to school forever never have a real job. Government job.
Jerome Powell, he makes $250,000 a year. Did you know that?
Well, what about incentives and bonuses?
Yeah,
and
I don't know about those. Yeah,
it's probably making $5 million a year.
Yeah, is that interesting? But it's so interesting that the Fed will say that they're raising rates, and then the last 2 days, today and yesterday, rates have actually went down a little bit. They were at 6.75, and now they're at 6.5.
Yeah.
Today they're at 6.5. So, but that maybe Friday, Monday, Tuesday could go back up. But they have said that rates are going up 0.25%.
Yeah.
And so
the banks went down.
Adjusted
down. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And so it appears that over the next maybe month or so, rates are going to go probably closer to 7 potentially.
Yeah.
I know that that they say that they're raising rates, it doesn't always have a direct impact on the consumer rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage, but it does have it is a indicator. It definitely is an indicator. So what do I think? I think that the Feds are in a unique opportunity because over the last month, actually just 3 weeks, we've learned that some banks are having an issue. Some banks have gone belly up. Silicon Valley Bank.
The bank in New York, and then
correct.
First Bank had some issues.
Correct, and I think we'll consistently see that. And so I think what I used before this bank issue happened just a couple of weeks ago, I thought rates were going to consistently stay between 6 and 7% over 2023 and maybe into early 2024 because they've already been this high for a year, and they've. I think they're just going to keep letting it roll out like this to help battle inflation. So what happens when you print, 40 or 50% of all money ever created,
$1 trillion
printed in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Ever in America. That's insane. So that's why I don't think it's going to be I didn't think it was going to be super quick. But what we've learned, this is why it's like unexpected things happen. Nobody was talking about banks going belly up. Nobody has been talking about that. So Silicon Valley Bank, within 48 hours, the FDIC took over them. And what had happened is a bank run happened in the Silicon Valley Bank. So within 48 hours, was it $48 billion was wired out. So everybody and their mother had found out that there was issues with the bank, and so they were just wiring money out. And one of the reasons why they were losing money is because they were investing into how I understood it is they're investing into long-term bonds. People were wiring money out, taking money, and so they had to sell long-term bond exactly at a discount. And the reason being is because they weren't expecting interest rates to be this high. And I guess as interest rates are higher, it makes bonds cheaper.
Right.
So they weren't making as much spread or any spread. They're actually making negative spread because rates were higher. So exactly, yeah. So given that new information, long story short, I think that we potentially might see rates come down quicker because if they stay at this high, this isn't going to be the only bank that's having that issue, And that was a pretty good-sized bank. Yeah, was it, a tech bank? Sure.
Yeah.
But it sounds like what happened was people were drawing money. They had to sell bonds at their investments at a deep discount because of interest rates being high. And so I think that's just going to consistently happen if they don't lower rates. So What do I think is going to happen with rates? I actually think we might. I'll give a guess. So by the end of this year, if we're at 6.5 right now, I think we'll be below 5.5. Actually, by the end of this year, so 1% more lower. That's very bullish. But given this new information, that it is. No, it is very wishful thinking. Because just a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I thought it was going to be 7.
Well, for me, I guess I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't really know what they're going to do. I think.
Well, I do.
What would make sense in something like this is, one, we know that they want to slow down inflation.
Yeah.
Because it's hyperinflated because of the amount of money they printed.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. So money is cheap, it's worth less.
Yeah.
They did it in Mexico in the 90s.
Right.
So now it's a repetition of what already happened with a different country. So it's very sad to see. And knowing that you and I and our kids and grandkids are going to pay for this from some puppet that's making all the decisions.
We are paying for it right now.
Right. So that's
look at everything that's gone up in price.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, look at gas. I pumped at $5.15.
Groceries
yesterday.
Housing.
Yeah.
Insurance. I mean, we could talk about insurance for so long right now.
Yeah. So in regards to the rates, I think they want to slow the inflation. So I think they're probably going to hover between 5 and 6. I would say between 5% and 7%. I think they're going to keep that. One of the things that I learned is that
that's where we are at now.
No,
5 to 7%.
I think that's what's going to stay.
Okay, how about this? I think they'll be between 1 and 10%. That's basically what you're saying.
No, with the 2 percentage points. No, I would say between in the 5 or 6s. Okay, that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
And the reason why I think that is because, yes, they want to slow down the inflation. So what would make sense to me is like, okay, let's not go to 4%, but also let's not go to what they predicted they would do, 8.5%.
Yeah.
2 economists predicted they would go to 8.5% this summer. I don't think
a lot of people thought that over 8.5. Even just business gurus were thinking, 9, 10%, kind of thing.
And then the other thing with bonds, the one thing that the banks were doing is, it's really just their strategies were really dumb. Who gives Bill Lamb $73 million for what? Like, I mean, they did. I don't feel bad for them. They did a lot of stupid investing. Not only that is, why would you ever invest in most of your money in bonds in one thing? I think
their chief, was it their chief risk officer or whatever? They didn't have one for like a year.
Yeah,
which is like. It's just the reason why this issue happened.
It's just poor management. Right. So I think poor management, the banks that have poor management, and
you should go under.
They should.
It's capitalism.
Yeah, they should go under. And why is the government rescuing these banks? It makes no sense. So that's going to affect all of us because we pay taxes. But the other thing with that is, okay, that's one thing. And there's instability in the market.
They said that they were protecting the depositors. I think they're allowing, how I understood it is, they're allowing the bank to go under or being sold into, but the depositors that had more than 250, which is, if you're a business in Silicon Valley, what did they say, 98 or 95% were uninsured above that 250, and because they had people like,
the question is,
a big one that had like 150 million, in there. One big company, I can't remember the name, but so it's like 250 to that's peanuts. That's the interest on that,
Yeah, no. So I agree. So the rates, who knows? But I hope they stay within that range because then it will slow down inflation, and also it's something that we have seen. It's still below the historical average from 1971 to now. The average was 7.25%, so still below that. So I think I think that's a big win. And people are used to that right now. 6.5, 5 3/4, 5.5. I mean, that would be fantastic. So that's that. So what are we going to
before we do the inflation thing? To be honest, I'm glad I'm not in their position because you're screwed at each way you go. Because if you lower rates right away, inflation's going to keep skyrocketing, and then you're going to have to raise rates so it's like and like if you don't lower rates, not only are you hurting the consumer, that is just their normal buying, selling, refinancing, line of credits, doing home improvement stuff, but also businesses like the banks that, as rates go up, it dramatically impacts them. And there's so many other industries that are dependent on this. So it's like, I am not envious of there, because I think no matter what you do, especially now we've been printing so much more over the last 15, 20 years, but even so much more over the last 3, you're just, unfortunately, this is, what would you expect? Of course inflation is going to be super high, and I know a lot of people say, oh, our kids and grandkids, yes, they will be dealing with it, but guys, we're dealing with it right now. Look how expensive everything is. So that being said, you want to go into the last one?
Yeah, so let's. The last thing I want to talk about is I think we need to talk about, especially if we're talking about investments in real estate. So in California, the 1031 exchange rules have changed in addition to the taxes. So they gave us an extension, free extension to October 16th of this year to file taxes for businesses, right?
They did.
And
to pay your taxes.
And to pay your taxes. Yeah. So that's great news. And the other great news with that package is that California extended 1031 exchanges to identify a property and close to that same day, to October 16th of this year. Normally in a 1031 exchange, you have 45 days to identify a property, submit your paperwork, and then you have 180 days to close. Well, now with this, you have 207 days from today to be able to identify and close on the property. So that's a lot more than before, right? So it's pretty amazing that you can do that. So if anybody's looking to do that, yes, we understand we have lack of inventory, but
yes,
it's like,
we do.
What a freaking great window of opportunity to identify a property 205 days whenever you start instead of 45.
Yeah. That's great.
That's insane. That's
I would. 3 times I mean, I would want more time than less time.
Right.
Especially in a very low inventory market. You know, so if
Can you imagine if you had that in Texas?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me more time to
Texas is not doing it though.
Right.
Right.
Well,
California's doing it.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So that's pretty amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna touch base with all my investors and
maybe sell your desert and come over here to OC.
That's what I'm thinking too. Right. As long as we can get your price, we deal with this leak, then then that's something that we might do. Trade that single family home for another income property.
Yeah.
As long as my wife is okay with it.
I'm sure she is.
We'll see, man. She wants less problems, less tenants.
Yeah.
More money, but less tenants.
Or yes. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's amazing. That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are an investor considering to do that, doing that at 1031 now, that's amazing. 207 days.
Right. No, that's great.
That's
because
awesome.
Before, with low inventory, the last couple of years, I've had many clients do exchanges since 2020 and since 2012, since I started.
Yeah.
But especially over the last couple of years, it's been it can be a little bit of a challenge because there's not that many options, or if there are options, there's been a lot of offers. So having a little bit more time, that's nice. And as we wrap up, we started this with talking about the challenges. That we're
property
both
ownership.
going to. Of property ownership. Now, bottom line is, are we still glad we're investing in real estate?
Oh yeah, 100%. Can you imagine if you were invested in the stock market or a bank? You'd be shafted.
Yeah.
I still love my property problems.
Yeah, right. Because we're still, you might have a couple months of getting all this stuff figured out, but I'm still positive, on my real estate, and I know that after the insurance and even though this is a pretty extreme situation, you're still going to end up on top just in a matter of a couple months.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be re-rented. It's in a great location.
Yeah.
You guys remodel it, really nice. It's highly rentable, and so it's a desirable area location. So I say, we're good. By May, probably the beginning of May, you're going to be completely, have this behind you.
Yeah, and it's, it's a property that we purchased, and we still have a lot of equity in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still very glad. In hindsight, knowing that this would happen, would I still buy it again a year and a half ago, or 15, 16 months ago? And the answer is yes, I would still buy it. Because it's such a small challenge. Yes, it sucks going through it, and it's painful, but I would still do it. It's like working out or like fasting, food fasting. The results are incredible, right? We all like the results. You work out. Yeah, who loves getting up at 5:15 in the morning? No one does, but people do it.
Right.
Why? Because of the results.
Right.
You're not fat. You feel better, you look better, you're healthier, you live longer. That's why we do it. So same thing with property. Long term, even in a few months, is going to be fine.
Yeah.
It sucks going through it.
Right.
But ultimately, I would still do it again.
Yeah. No, I completely
And I would
agree.
still buy more.
Right. Right. And yeah, we're both looking for more. You know, yeah, maybe it's a little bit slower as we're getting the challenges worked out, but we're still looking for more. So
Yeah. So
Cool.
yeah, pretty good day.
all right, dude.
All right. Hasta la vista. We'll continue this on. The water issue still happening. So we'll
Tune in
continue.
next week. Yeah.
Tune in next week for
To
another
see what the
update.
total bill is. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, actually, one last thing. As of right now, so just not including February, for the month of March, my water bill for that property because of the leak is already over $4,000.
That's insane.
Which normally is.
Should we start a GoFundMe?
We should, yeah. Yes, go find me.
Luis's water bill.
The link will be posted on the homepage. Yeah, so normally it's like $60 a month.
That's insane.
1 month over $4,000.
Yeah, that's insane.
And who pays for that? You gotta pay it.
Right.
But your tenants don't have any water.
Right.
So you never know. But stay tuned next week. We'll go more into that. We'll see how much more that is. All right.